You did what with the human younglings? Ambassador Kethrix's antenna twitched violently as she stared at the Regulatory Commission chief across the crystalline conference table. We merely contained them in a standard juvenile detention facility. Chief Administrator Zixtal replied with an irritated flutter of his wing membranes. They were disturbing the peace in Recreation Sector 7, engaging in completely unauthorized climbing activities, and making the most awful screeching sounds. The ambassador's normally iridescent scales took on a sickly gray tone. Please tell me you at least notified their guardians immediately. Well. Zixtal examined his datapad with careful attention. We followed standard protocol for handling delinquent juvenile specimens. They are being processed through the system like any other. Like any other? Kethrix's voice rose to a pitch that made the crystal walls vibrate ominously. Chief Administrator, those are human children. Do you have any concept of what you've done? I fail to see the issue. Zixtal sniffed. The facility is perfectly adequate. They have nutrition paste, sanitized sleeping pods, and mandatory quiet time. Everything any developing specimen requires. Kethrix slumped in her hover chair, all four hands massaging her temple ridges. Tell me exactly what happened, from the beginning. If you insist. Zixtal pulled up the incident report. At approximately 1742 station time, a group of 6 human younglings were observed scaling the decorative mineral formations in Recreation Sector 7's meditation garden. When approached by security drones, they refused to cease their activities, and instead began emitting high-pitched vocalizations while continuing to climb higher. They were playing and laughing, Kethrix translated wearily. Go on. The security drones issued standard warnings in all major galactic languages. The younglings responded by throwing small objects at the drones and making raspberry sounds. Zixtal's face tentacles curled in disgust. Most uncivilized. We had no choice but to deploy containment fields and transport them to the Juvenile Detention Center for processing. And how long have they been there? Approximately 6 station cycles. 6 cycles? Kethrix shot up from her chair. That's almost 3 Earth days. Where are their parents? We posted the standard notice of juvenile detention on the station's public information network, Zixtal said defensively. It's not our fault if humans don't properly monitor. The door to the conference room burst open with a hiss, revealing a human female in a crisp diplomatic uniform. Her face was set in what Kethrix recognized as the human expression of barely contained rage. Ambassador Kethrix, the human said with razor-sharp politeness. I believe you called for me? Ah, yes. Diplomatic Officer Winters. Please, join us. We were just discussing a situation involving some human children. Yes, Officer Winters said, her smile not reaching her eyes. I received your urgent message. Something about 6 children being imprisoned for playing in the garden? Zixtal bristled. They were not playing. They were engaging in unauthorized climbing activities, and they were climbing the rocks in the meditation garden. Winters cut him off. Like children have done since the dawn of time on every world that has both children and rocks. And your response was to throw them in jail for 3 days? It is a juvenile detention facility, not a jail, Zixtal corrected primly. And they were properly fed nutrition paste. Winter's voice rose. Do you know what human children need? Proper food, exercise, sunlight, or at least the station's equivalent, social interaction, their parents. Do you have any idea what you've done? I followed protocol. Oh, protocols! Winters threw up her hands. Let me tell you about human protocols regarding children. We have this thing called protective instincts. When you take our children, lock them up, and don't tell their parents where they are, that triggers something we call mama bear mode. Kethrix winced. She'd been studying human idioms long enough to know this was very bad indeed. I don't understand the reference to Ursine maternal behavior, Zixtal said stiffly. Let me put it in terms you might understand, Winters said, leaning over the table. Right now, there are 6 sets of human parents who have been frantically searching for their children for 3 days. They've been imagining every horrible scenario possible. They've been growing more desperate and angry by the hour, and when they find out that their kids were locked up for climbing rocks. She smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Well, let's just say you're about to learn why every species in the galaxy that's ever tried to mess with human children has regretted it. Surely you're exaggerating, Zixtal scoffed. They're merely younglings. All species have them. They require proper discipline and... A loud commotion in the hallway interrupted him. The door slid open again, revealing a group of red-faced humans in various forms of work clothes and casual wear. Behind them, several security drones sparked and fizzled, apparently having failed to prevent their entrance. "Where are our kids?" a burly human male in maintenance coveralls demanded. Zixtal's wing membranes pulled tight against his body. "This is a restricted area. You can't just—" "Watch us!" growled a woman in medical scrubs. 3 days. Our children have been missing for 3 days, and we just found out they've been locked up in some alien juvie because they were playing? Now let's all remain calm. Kethrix tried to intervene, shooting a desperate look at Officer Winters. "Oh, I'm perfectly calm," another parent said with dangerous serenity. "I'm so calm that I'm going to very calmly explain what's going to happen next. You're going to release our children immediately. Then we're going to have a very calm discussion about updating your protocols regarding human residents. And then we're going to calmly ensure that nothing like this ever happens again." "Are you threatening me?" Zixtal drew himself up indignantly. "I am the Chief Administrator of the Regulatory Commission. You can't, actually." Officer Winters cut in smoothly. "According to Galactic Law Section 47.3 regarding the rights of member species, any detention of juveniles without proper notification of guardians and species-appropriate care constitutes a serious violation. The station could face sanctions, and you personally could be held liable for any psychological harm caused by improper containment procedures." Kethrix watched with satisfaction as Zixtal's face tentacles went limp with horror. But they were climbing on the rocks," he sputtered. "They're human kids," Winters said flatly. "They climb things. They run. They laugh. They play. It's not just normal behavior. It's necessary for their development. If you want humans on your station, you need to account for that. The meditation garden can be modified to include a designated climbing area," Kethrix suggested quickly, seeing an opportunity to salvage the situation. "Perhaps we could create a specialized recreation zone for human younglings, with proper safety measures, of course." "That might be acceptable," one of the parents said slowly. "But first, our kids." Of course! Zixtal practically tripped over himself reaching for his datapad. "I'll send the release order immediately, and naturally the station will provide compensation for any distress. We'll discuss terms later," Winters said firmly. "Right now, those children have spent 3 days in isolation eating nutrition paste. They need their parents, real food, and probably a lot of hugs." As the parents rushed out, following a chastened administrator to retrieve their children, Kethrix turned to Officer Winters. "I apologize for this incident. I should have ensured our protocols were better adapted for human residents." "Well, it's a learning experience," Winters said with a slight smile. "Though I suggest you update those protocols quickly. Humans are pretty adaptable, but mess with our kids?" She shook her head. "That's one thing we're absolutely inflexible about. Always have been, always will be." "Noted," Kethrix said fervently. "Though I must ask, what exactly is this mama bear reference about?" "Ah," Winters grinned. "Well, on Earth, we have these large predatory mammals called bears. Generally, they're dangerous enough on their own, but if you get between a mother bear and her cubs, that's when you see true fury. We humans, we're the same way about our children. It's encoded in our DNA, buried deep in our evolutionary history. We'll face down any threat, fight any battle, to protect our young." "But you're a spacefaring species now," Kethrix pointed out. "Surely such primitive instincts have served us very well," Winters interrupted. "Those primitive instincts are why human children are encouraged to explore, to play, to push boundaries. Safely, of course. It's why we've spread across the galaxy, always pushing further, always climbing higher." She winked. "Just like those kids in your meditation garden." Kethrix's antenna twitched thoughtfully. Perhaps we have something to learn from human child-rearing practices?" "Oh, definitely," Winters agreed. "Starting with rule number 1, never, ever come between human parents and their children. Unless you enjoy seeing exactly why humans are considered one of the most formidable species in the galaxy." "I believe Chief Administrator Zixtal has learned that lesson quite thoroughly today," Kethrix observed dryly. "Good," Winters said cheerfully. "Now about that climbing area in the meditation garden." 3 months later, Recreation Sector 7's meditation garden had been transformed. The crystalline rock formations remained, but now they were surrounded by specialized climbing structures, safety fields, and padding. Human children played there daily, their laughter mixing with the contemplative hums of other species who had discovered that the sound of young humans at play was its own form of meditation. Chief Administrator Zixtal had been reassigned to cargo processing, where he wouldn't have to deal with humans or their offspring. His replacement, a Centaurian who had actually studied xenopsychology, had implemented comprehensive new protocols for dealing with all juvenile species on the station. And if anyone ever questioned why humans were given such special consideration in matters regarding their children, they were quietly shown the security footage of 6 sets of human parents storming the administrative offices, ready to take on the entire station to protect their young. The footage became required viewing in the station's cultural sensitivity training, filed under "Why You Don't Mess with Human Kids," a case study in evolutionary imperatives and parental fury. Ambassador Cathrix kept a copy in her personal files, labeled simply, "Mama Bears in Space." Chapter 2. The Field Trip Incident. "You want to take human children? Where?" Ambassador Cathrix's scales shifted through several shades of disbelief. Officer Winters examined the proposal floating in the holographic display between them. "The Zorblax Mining Academy? That's ambitious." The enthusiastic young education coordinator, Dr. Jalara, bobbed all 3 of her eye stalks. "Yes. After the climbing garden incident, I've been studying human educational methods. They have this wonderful concept called field trips, where younglings learn through direct observation and experience." "And you chose a mining academy?" Cathrix asked carefully. "Well, it's perfectly safe," Jalara assured them. "The facility is state-of-the-art, with multiple redundant safety systems. And human children are naturally curious about how things work, aren't they? The academy has these fascinating massive drilling machines, mineral processing units, and heavy industrial equipment." Winters finished, pinching the bridge of her nose. "You want to take 28 grade school children to see heavy industrial equipment?" "Yes. Isn't it exciting?" Cathrix and Winters exchanged a look that transcended species barriers, the universal expression of, "Oh dear." "Dr. Jalara," Winters said diplomatically, "while I appreciate your enthusiasm for human educational methods, perhaps we should discuss some key aspects of supervising human children." "Oh, I've studied all the new protocols extensively." Jalara's eye stalks wiggled proudly. "No detention facilities, proper nutritional requirements, adequate exercise opportunities." "What about the Murphy Principle?" Cathrix interrupted. Jalara's eye stalks crossed in confusion. "The what?" "It's not in the official protocols," Winters explained. "It's more of an unofficial human law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. When you combine that with human children's natural curiosity and creativity—" "I don't understand," Jalara said. The academy is completely secure. The equipment is behind safety barriers. The control systems are locked down. What could possibly—" "Never say those words around human children," Winters and Cathrix said simultaneously. But it was too late. The universe, having a particular sense of humor about such things, was already in motion. 2 days later, the field trip was underway. Despite the misgivings of both the ambassador and Officer Winters, the parents had actually been enthusiastic about the idea. "Better than another boring museum," one had said. "At least they'll see something cool." Dr. Jalara had prepared extensively. Each child wore a safety harness with built-in shields and tracking devices. The chaperones, a mix of human parents and station staff, were equipped with emergency protocols and communication devices. Even the academy staff had been briefed on human-specific safety measures. Everything was going perfectly for the first hour. "And this," the academy instructor droned, "is our pride and joy, the Mark 7 autonomous mining unit. Completely automated, guided by quantum AI, with 17 different safety interlocks." Most of the children were actually paying attention, fascinated by the massive machine. A few were asking surprisingly technical questions about its operations. It was the quiet ones that should have raised alarm bells. "Has anyone seen Tommy and Alex?" one of the parent chaperones asked suddenly. A quick check of the tracking devices showed 2 dots moving where no dots should be, inside the maintenance access shaft of the Mark 7. "But that's impossible," the instructor sputtered. "The access panels are magna-locked. The security system is state-of-the-art. They'd need high-level engineering knowledge to—" "Tommy's parents are both engineers," one of the chaperones said wearily. "And Alex has been taking apart and rebuilding computers since she was 5. "We have to shut down the system immediately," the instructor panicked. "Wait," came a small voice from inside the machine. "We almost got it." "Almost got what?" several adults asked with dread. "The quantum AI was super inefficient," Alex's voice explained. "Tommy figured out how to optimize its pathfinding algorithms while I reworked the neural net architecture. It should be about 40% more effective now." There was a moment of stunned silence. That's That's not possible, the instructor whispered. The AI architecture is incredibly complex. Yeah, but you were using outdated quantum mapping protocols. Tommy's voice chimed in. My mom was complaining about those last week. They're like 3 years old. The Mark 7 hummed to life, its movements noticeably smoother and more precise than before. Children, Dr. Jalara said faintly, all 3 eye stalks twitching. Please come out of the mining unit. Okay! 2 panels popped open, and the children climbed out, covered in hydraulic fluid but grinning proudly. We documented all the changes and left detailed comments in the code. The instructor was staring at his diagnostic pad in disbelief. They actually improved it, significantly. The efficiency ratings are... How did they... Human children, Officer Winters said, having arrived at the first sign of trouble. Have a unique ability to cause chaos and innovation in equal measure, usually simultaneously. But they're so young, Jalara protested. They shouldn't even understand quantum computing at that level. Yeah, about that, one of the parents said. Maybe we should have mentioned that Tommy and Alex have been taking advanced physics courses in their spare time. They get bored easily. Bored? The instructor was still staring at his pad. They just revolutionized our mining AI in 15 minutes because they were bored? To be fair, Alex piped up, it was really obvious once we looked at it. You just had to think outside the box. The box, Tommy added helpfully, was very inefficient. Cathrix, who had also arrived on scene, made a sound that might have been either a laugh or a sob. Dr. Jalara, I believe you've just experienced one of the fundamental truths about human children. What's that? Jalara asked weakly. They will consistently prove that no system is as secure as you think. No technology is as advanced as it could be, and no adult is ever fully prepared for their creativity. I see, Jalara said. Should I cancel the rest of the field trip? Are you kidding? One of the parents grinned. This is the most educational field trip these kids have ever had. Though maybe we should have them sign non-disclosure agreements about the AI improvements. Already done, Alex announced. We filed the provisional patents through the station's automated system while we were working. The Academy can use the improvements royalty-free, but any other applications will need licensing. The adults stared at the children. What? Tommy shrugged. My mom always says to protect your intellectual property. Right, Officer Winters said brightly. Who's ready for lunch? Away from any other automated systems? As they herded the children toward the cafeteria, Cathrix overheard Dr. Jalara muttering to herself. Note for updated protocols. Human children plus advanced technology equals chaos and/or revolutionary breakthroughs. Plan accordingly. Don't forget the Murphy principle, Cathrix reminded her. Oh, I won't, Jalara promised, though I'm beginning to think humans invented that law specifically because of their children. Now you're getting it, Winters laughed. Just wait until you hear about what happened when we first gave teenagers access to FTL drive technology. There's more? Jalara asked, her eye stalks drooping. So much more, Cathrix assured her. So very, very much more. Chapter 3. The Cultural Exchange Catastrophe. The emergency meeting of the Station Cultural Advisory Board was in full swing, which meant Cathrix's office was chaos incarnate. What do you mean they're teaching the hive mind children independence? The VaxClick Queen's pheromone signals were so agitated they were making the potted plants wilt. Not exactly independence, Officer Winters tried to explain. More like creative problem-solving? Through something called hide-and-seek, Dr. Jalara added helpfully. All 3 eye stalks focused on her datapad. It's apparently a traditional human training exercise disguised as recreation. The Queen's antennae vibrated with distress. But my drones are meant to act in perfect synchronization. Now, Pod Cluster 7 keeps suggesting alternative approaches to standard tasks. To be fair, Cathrix interjected, their efficiency has increased by 23% since they started playing with the human children. That's not the point! Yesterday, one of them asked why we always process nutrition packets in alphabetical order. Winters tried not to smile. And was there a good reason? That's not... it's just how it's done. The Queen's carapace flushed an alarming shade of mauve. If I may, a new voice chimed in. The logical concordance representative, T-Zen, raised one crystalline appendage. We are experiencing similar disruptions among our youth nodes. They have begun engaging in an activity they call jokes. Oh no, Cathrix muttered. Indeed, T-Zen continued. Yesterday, a youth note asked, why did the photon refuse to check into the hotel? Before anyone could analyze the logical parameters of the scenario, it answered, because it was traveling light. Winters bit her lip hard. Several other youth nodes emitted strange rhythmic vocalizations in response, Tizen added. When questioned, they claimed this was laughter, and that the illogical wordplay was funny. The corruption spreads, the Queen moaned. Next they'll be wanting individual names. Actually, Dr. Jalara consulted her pad again. Pod Cluster 7 has already chosen names. They're calling themselves the Buzz Brigade. The Queen made a sound like a strangled bagpipe. Perhaps, Cathrix suggested diplomatically, we should focus on the potential benefits of this cultural cross-pollination? Benefits? The Queen's antennae twisted into knots. My drones are developing personalities! And my youth nodes are telling jokes that violate the laws of physics. Tizen's crystalline surface flickered with distress patterns. Well, Winters said carefully, human children do tend to inspire creative thinking in those around them. It's part of their charm. Charm? The Queen rose up to her full height. Is that what you call it when they taught my maintenance drones to play tag in the ventilation systems? The exercise has improved their mobility and response times, Cathrix pointed out. They're giggling. Drones don't giggle. To be accurate, Tizen interjected. The sound they're producing is more of a chittering laugh, similar to what humans call a chuckle. You're not helping, the Queen snapped. The door chimed, and a junior administrative assistant poked their head in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation in the education pod. What now? Several voices asked simultaneously. The human children are teaching the others about something called show and tell. That sounds harmless enough, Cathrix said hopefully. And young Bzt 427 of Pod Cluster 7 is attempting to demonstrate how they modified their neural linkages to allow for independent thought while maintaining hive connectivity. The Queen made another strangled noise. And the logical concordance youth nodes are presenting a comedy routine. Tizen's crystalline surface went completely opaque in shock. And the gelatinous collective offspring have formed themselves into what they claim is a rock band. A what? Cathrix asked weakly. They've figured out how to vibrate their membranes to produce musical tones, the assistant explained. They're calling themselves the Wobbling Wonders and are performing something called space jazz fusion. Officer Winters couldn't hold back anymore. She burst out laughing. This isn't funny, the Queen insisted. Do you have any idea what this could do to our civilizations? Our carefully ordered societies? Your children are learning, growing, and developing in ways you never expected, Winters said, wiping tears from her eyes. They're discovering that there's more than one way to approach life. They're finding their own voices, sometimes literally, in the case of the Wobbling Wonders. But, they're supposed to follow the established patterns. Why? Asked a small voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see one of the Queen's drones, recognizable by the small adhesive name tag that read Buzz 7, standing there. What did you say? The Queen asked faintly. Why do we have to follow the old patterns? Buzz 7 asked. The humans showed us that we can maintain our connection to the hive while still thinking independently. It makes us better at solving problems. Like yesterday when we figured out how to optimize the nutrition packet processing by organizing them by demand frequency instead of alphabetically. We increased efficiency by 45%. The Queen's antennae drooped. But that's not how... And we're happier, Buzz 7 added. We didn't even know we could be happy before. But now we can play, and laugh, and make friends, and still do all our work better than ever. Isn't that a good thing? There was a long moment of silence. Finally, Tizen spoke. The logic is difficult to refute. Enhanced efficiency combined with increased unit satisfaction does suggest a net positive outcome. See? Winters said gently. This is why we let our children play, explore, and question things. They often see possibilities that we adults have forgotten to look for. I suppose, the Queen said reluctantly, the efficiency improvements are significant. And the jokes? Tizen asked. How do they benefit our development? Well, Buzz 7 said, I heard this one from the logical concordance youth nodes. Why did the binary code go to the doctor? Because it was feeling a bit off. The drone made a chittering laugh. Get it? Because in binary, off is 0 and... We get it, the Queen said weakly. Universe, help us all. We get it. I believe, Cathrix said, fighting back her own amusement. We should perhaps reconvene this meeting after observing more of this show and tell event. For research purposes, of course. Of course, Winters agreed. I, for one, am very interested in hearing the Wobbling Wonders' take on space jazz fusion. As they filed out of the office, Dr. Jalara made another note in her pad. Update to human interaction protocols. Warning. Exposure to human children may cause unexpected evolution of social structures, development of individual personalities, and spontaneous outbreaks of humor. Proceed with caution, but expect miracles. Later that day, Cathrix added her own note to the official station records. Observation. Human children don't just adapt to new environments, they transform them, pulling everyone around them into their orbit of curiosity, creativity, and change. The real question isn't whether we should try to control this influence, but whether our civilizations were ready for this kind of transformation all along, just waiting for the catalyst that human children naturally provide. She paused, then added, Personal addendum. The Wobbling Wonders concert was actually quite impressive, especially their quantum harmonic resonance solo. Chapter 4. The Great Science Fair Incident. A science fair? Cathrix stared at Dr. Jalara's proposal. After everything that's happened, you want to hold an interspecies science fair? Yes! All three of Jalara's eye stalks bobbed enthusiastically. It's another fascinating human educational tradition. Children create projects to demonstrate scientific principles and you want to let our newly independent hive drones, joke-telling logic youth nodes, and musically inclined gelatinous collective participate alongside human children? Officer Winters asked, already feeling a headache coming on. Exactly. Think of the collaborative potential. I am thinking of the collaborative potential, Cathrix said. That's exactly what terrifies me. Oh, come now, Jalara said. What's the worst that could happen? Both Cathrix and Winters turned to stare at her. Did you really just say that? Winters asked. After everything? The projects will be strictly supervised, Jalara assured them. We've established clear safety guidelines, no unauthorized AI modifications, no quantum experiments without oversight, no biological engineering without proper containment protocols. The fact that we need to specify these restrictions for grade school children should tell you something, Cathrix muttered. I've already received several fascinating project proposals, Jalara continued, undaunted. The Buzz Brigade wants to demonstrate practical applications of hive mind distributed computing. Reasonable enough. Winters nodded cautiously. The logic youth nodes are exploring the quantum mechanics of humor. The what now? And the Wobbling Wonders are collaborating with human students on something they call the physics of sick beats. There was a moment of silence. You know, Winters said finally, I actually want to see where this goes. That's the spirit, Jalara beamed. The fair is scheduled for next week in the main exhibition hall. What could possibly— Don't say it! Cathrix and Winters shouted. The day of the science fair arrived with an air of nervous excitement. The exhibition hall had been divided into sections, each project carefully contained within its own safety field. Teams of human and alien children moved about, making last-minute adjustments to their displays. Everything appears to be under control, Dr. Jalara reported proudly. The Buzz Brigade's distributed computing demonstration is running smoothly. The logic node's quantum humor analysis is proceeding within expected parameters, and the Wobbling Wonders acoustics experiment is actually quite catchy. Indeed, from one corner of the hall came a pulsing beat that had several species bobbing in synchronization, regardless of their natural rhythms. What about Tommy and Alex? Winters asked, scanning the room. After the mining incident, I'm a bit concerned. Oh, they're working with a team of crystalline entity children on a project about light refraction. Perfectly safe. Cathrix's scales shifted skeptically. And you've checked that they haven't enhanced anything? Of course. Their project is a simple demonstration of how different crystalline structures affect light waves. See? Jalara pointed to where the human crystalline team was setting up an array of prismatic forms. Those crystals look different from standard formations, Cathrix observed. The children grew them themselves, Jalara said proudly. They developed a new crystallization process that— She was interrupted by a sudden burst of light from the team's display. Rainbow patterns danced across the ceiling, forming complex geometric shapes that seemed to move with impossible fluidity. That's not standard light refraction, Winters said slowly. Oh, wow, one of the crystalline children chimed excitedly, their facets glowing. The quantum entangled crystal matrix is performing even better than our calculations predicted. The what? Several adults asked simultaneously. We figured out how to grow crystals with quantum-entangled lattice structures, Tommy explained, as if this was a perfectly normal thing for elementary school students to do. When you run coherent light through them at the right frequency, they create self-organizing photonic patterns that... Is that safe? Cathrix interrupted. Mostly, Alex offered. We're pretty sure we can't accidentally create a tear in space-time, like 95% sure. Before anyone could process that concerning statement, a commotion arose from the Buzz Brigade section. Their distributed computing demonstration had apparently linked up with the logic node's quantum humor analysis, creating what they described as a hybrid computational comedy network. The joke algorithms are evolving, one of the logic nodes announced excitedly. We've achieved recursive humor! The wobbling wonders, not to be outdone, had somehow synchronized their beats with the quantum crystal light show, creating what they called a multi-dimensional audio-visual experience. Various alien species in the audience were swaying, laughing, or both, some displaying emotional responses that their species had never shown before. Should we shut it down? Jalara asked nervously. Winters was watching the scene with a mix of horror and fascination. I'm not sure we can. Or should. I think we're witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Indeed, the various projects had begun to interact in unexpected ways. The quantum crystal patterns were influencing the hybrid computational network, which was generating jokes that somehow perfectly matched the rhythm of the wobbling wonders music, creating a synchronized experience of light, sound, and humor that transcended species barriers. The children have accidentally created a new form of multi-species cultural expression, Cathrix realized, through science fair projects. Is that bad? Jalara asked. Bad? It's... Cathrix struggled for words. It's exactly what happens when you let human children inspire other species to think creatively. They don't just push boundaries. They erase them entirely and draw new ones in configurations nobody ever imagined. The crystalline team had made some adjustments, and now the light patterns were forming three-dimensional shapes that told visual jokes generated by the hybrid network, while the wobbling wonders provided what they called a soundtrack for the universe's sense of humor. Station residents were pouring into the exhibition hall, drawn by the unprecedented display. Species that had never been able to communicate effectively were suddenly sharing laughter, appreciation, and understanding through this bizarre confluence of child-created technologies. I suppose, Dr. Jalara said, making notes frantically, we should update the science fair guidelines again? What's the point? Winters laughed. The kids will just find new ways to transcend them. That's what human children do, and now they've taught other species' children to do it too. The next generation of galactic civilization is going to be very... interesting, Cathrix observed. Interesting? A passing logic node commented. That is an insufficient descriptor. Let me tell you a joke about it, now with quantum uncertainty. As the exhibition hall filled with light, music, and multi-species laughter, Cathrix made a mental note to update the station's official records. Note to future historians. When humanity said their children were their greatest contribution to galactic civilization, we thought they were speaking metaphorically. We really should have paid more attention to the warning signs. Though in retrospect, the universe is probably better for it. Certainly more interesting, definitely more musical, and surprisingly more humorous. Also, she added after a moment's thought, we should probably establish guidelines for quantum-enhanced knock-knock jokes. Just in case, the end.